What's up everyone? Welcome back to part 2 of this Volvo project. In the last episode we fixed the leaking fuel hose as well as the anti-roll bar links that had rusted off. And in this one I'm going to be looking over the braking system and make sure that it's working properly. I'm going to lube up some of the brake components and free them up because some of them are sticking right now. And I'm also going to be checking over the lighting system on the car, make sure that all the lights are functioning, and also any quick fixes that are free that doesn't involve me buying some new parts, because my plan is just to go to the inspection center and get it inspected, and if they notice anything more with the car that is wrong, that involves me having to buy new parts, I will go ahead and do that first and make that a priority instead of me going over the car and just guessing what they will find and what they will not find, because you never really know. They might find something that I don't find and I will have to buy new parts for that. So I just think it's smarter to get it inspected now and see what they find with the car, and I will make that a priority. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we will take care of is the bracket for the e-brake cable. This is the repair kit. If you live in Sweden, you can buy it at the store, Biltema. In order to mount it to the rear axle, I need to remove what's remaining of the old bracket, just grinding that off and making it flush with the rear axle. Like so. And I'm also removing any surface rust. It doesn't have to be super clean, just so that the surface rust is gone, so that you can mount it on some metal. And yeah, I don't think light layer of paint will stop any future corrosion, so I wiped it down with some grease. And yes, it will have enough clamping force to so that it won't glide around anything, I promise. Another important thing is to make these pivot points move freely, so I spray them down with some penetrating fluid and just work them back and forth until they move freely. So it's this pivot point and another one in the back. This is the other one I was talking about. Put some copper paste on the threads. Now it's time to lube up the brakes. As you can see, there's a lot of rust in there, a lot of rust buildup, and when that happens, it pretty much squeezes the brake pads together so they won't move freely. So it's really important from time to time to just remove the brake pads and remove any rust forming on the surface where the brake pad slides in and out. And I'm also going to be applying a bit of ceramic anti-seize. And it's probably best to replace these pins, but I decided to just reuse them. They seem to stick in there pretty well, so as you can see, they're pretty firm. And I also managed to loosen the brake bleeder, so that was really nice to be able to do that. So I went ahead and bled the system in the rear and changed out the brake fluid in there. So I stumbled upon a little problem here when I was removing the right front brakes. The glide pin here, as you can see, was completely stuck, and when I was trying to remove it, it just snapped right off, as you can see here. The other one I could remove, no problems, but this one is still stuck in there. So I have to think of some solution to get that out. I think I'm gonna weld a nut on here and try to wiggle it back and forth. And the welding of the nut here is going to create a lot of heat in here, and hopefully that'll help along the way. So let's see. Unfortunately, the welding didn't work. I ended up just breaking the nut off because it wouldn't budge. So the only option left is to drill the entire glide pin out, which took a pretty long time. So I had to buy a new glide pin for the upper one, and then it worked perfect.
Nu sitter den.
And also make sure you lube up the glide pins before you reinstall them. And I'm putting a dab of anti-seize on the surface where the brake pads move. Now I really should replace the brake pads and the brake rotor, but that's for another video. I just want them to be able to move freely now. That's the goal with this one. I also went ahead and checked all of the fluids to see just if the level was correct and the state of the fluids. And the rear axle was actually pretty perfect. It was right where the level should be, and the fluid looked really nice and clear. However, when I was gonna remove the fill plug on the gearbox, it was super stuck. Someone had really torqued it on there. So I ended up rounding the nut, so I had to use one of these nut removers. They're actually pretty cool. They dig into the nut or the bolt head when you turn them anti-clockwise. That way it worked really great. I managed to remove it, but it was super stuck there. And then I just replaced the fill plug. And then on to fixing this mess that was left by the previous owner. He started to install a new contact for when you connect the trailer. This was the old connection, which is pretty much done by this time. So I started with feeding the new wires through, and this is the old bracket for it, which is useless at this stage. So I just made a new one from some sheet metal, bended it, and made a hole and 3 holes for the screws. It's not the prettiest, but it'll do the job. So this is how it looks. And I'll probably seal off the backside there in the future to prevent any salt and water to getting in. And regarding the lighting system on the car, everything actually looked pretty good, except for a crack in the front headlight. That might be a problem for the inspection, but we'll have to see. So that's how it looks when it's mounted up. So I'm outside the inspection center now, waiting for my turn to get in. So let's hope it'll make it. I doubt it because I noticed a few things that, might be wrong with the car. Some play in the front end, amongst other things. So yeah, we will see if it passes, but I won't be surprised if it fails. So yeah, as I suspected, it didn't pass, and the faults that they found was the brakes in the front were uneven. The steering rack, where it mounts to the subframe, was cracked. The tie rod had some play in it, and the headlight, which is cracked, the left front. So four things I need to fix. I've looked up the parts for everything. There's a repair kit for the steering rack that you can buy, which is really nice. Otherwise, I'm just gonna replace the brakes in the front and the brake hoses, and replace just the glass for the headlight, and obviously replace the inner and outer tie rod. And then we should, fingers crossed, be fine. So that is all for this episode, guys. I really appreciate that you're watching this project and this channel. In the next part, we're going to fix all of the issues that was wrong with the car so that it can hopefully pass the inspection. I've ordered everything, so everything should be on the way. So yeah, see you next time. Have a great one, guys.